Welcome to the Works Plus TechTalk Podcast, where we delve into all things polished concrete, in particular into the minds of those who are shaping the industry. Today, we are very fortunate to have as a guest Jake Long.
G'day, mate. How's it going?
Good, mate. What's your business name?
Premium Polished Concrete.
There you go. Gave it a plug. And where are you based, Jake?
Down on the Mornington Peninsula, southeast Melbourne.
Ah, beautiful. And Jake has been in the game for quite a long time. And most people in Australia know Jake's work. If they don't know the name, they probably know some of the visual cues of that can be found on the internet. Some of his work's quite famous. Jake, how did we all get here?
Oh, so originally all kind of started with when I finished school, I went into university and went into environmental engineering and science. And I learned about this concept called intra-generational equity. And that is the value of a structure or something between generations, not just within one generation, but from the next. And from there, I really liked the concept of saving structures and saving things that we have and making the most use out of what is already existing rather than rebuilding things and salvaging. Ended up falling out of love with university and preferred to do things with my hands. Went into just general labouring, then into landscaping. Got out of landscaping, went into epoxy flooring for surface prep.
Yep.
And I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, was salvaging this terrible concrete floor, making it look nice and all nice, but then really didn't like how everything was single use.
By single use, what do you mean?
All the 2-pack epoxies and stuff.
Gotcha.
Every tool
has to be replaced.
Every brush, every bucket, paddles and everything. And it used to always rub me wrong how everything was greenwashed. All the salesmen being like, oh, it's eco-friendly because you're reusing the concrete. And then you look at all the consumables that were just unnecessary, and then learning more about epoxies. And unfortunately had a spill on my face with some polyurethane.
Yep.
And that kind of gave me a skin reaction to VOCs where I couldn't be around them anymore. Got out of that, but I liked using the grinder and doing the surface prep and found that really satisfying.
Sure.
And this was this back in like 2016 or something?
Yep.
Did all the research I could. Google, YouTube, Wikipedia. Was watching videos in Russian of people operating PG 680s, polishing their little car park in Russia with subtitles, and just trying to learn as much as I could about polishing, because I was like, that looks better. That is actually making a better product. At the time, I found out about the Works polishing seminars you were holding back then, signed up for one of them, but I wanted to get ahead of it more. So I went on Instagram and typed in Polished Concrete Melbourne, found someone who'd done a job 2 suburbs over from me in Mornington, went down to that job. It was a shop. Went in and had a look, and I was just amazed at the concrete. I'd never seen concrete look so good.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, I want to do this. So then went on their website, and they had an address on their website. I just drove to the address, and I'm like, they're going to have a shop. I'll just go in there, try and talk to the receptionist, talk to someone. But it was the owner's house. And I was like, oh, shit. This is kind of awkward. This is just like his legal address. Kind of feel like a stalker. But I was like, oh, I'm already here. So I just flipped a coin, and I was like, if it's heads, I'll go in and just ask for a job. And it was heads. So I just knocked on the door and asked for a job. And I was like, yeah, I've got a ute. I can tow. I know how to reverse a trailer. I don't play footy, don't have kids, don't drink, just want to work. And he was like, yeah, wrote my name down on the piece of paper. And I was like, he's never going to call me. And then the next morning, he rang me. He's like, hey, you want to work? And I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, the guy didn't show up for work today. So I started
meant to be.
the day after and got into polishing. And then, yeah, that's when I made the step up from the surface prep single phase 530 that I was just tripping circuits and cutting out T1 error code on the inverter, temperature overheat. Temperature 1 overheat. And yeah, they had 680s and I was like, this is proper machinery. This is a good setup. Stayed with them for a bit, but that was too much, too rural. I didn't realize how rural their work was. I thought it was more based down the peninsula way.
Sure.
And so I was doing 60 hours at work, which is, pretty standard in here. But then on top of that, I was doing 20 hours at least of driving unpaid.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was just, I was like, this isn't cost effective.
Mm-hmm.
So switched out of them and ended up with working for someone that was more down local way. And when I was with that original like rural company, I'd worked up to operating out of a van with a genset and everything with someone else working with me. But then when I moved to the local fella, he was just a sole operator and I was just now like downgraded to edges in a way. So I was kind of in easy mode.
Yeah.
So I knew like the process, but I was just on edges. But it was a lot easier as far as work-life balance.
Certainly.
And easier in terms of just doing the work. So I would just smash some edges out and then sit on my phone, wait for him to finish a room, do the edges, get on my phone.
Oh, wow.
And I was just, like bringing in as much money and just, cruisy kind of
I could
workload.
imagine.
But yeah, just worked on getting as quick as I could at that and without dropping standards. That was the key thing, was never trying to just get the job done as quick as possible. It was re-tin the standard as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So then developing the muscle memory of that, of holding an angle grinder for hours on end, building up the callus on my hand so I can hold a motor while it's hot still. And yeah, that's kind of where all that kind of segued into the detail aspects of being able to see it and do it quickly.
Yeah, certainly.
So, and then saved up all my money, and came across a King's Concept 680 on Gumtree in Queensland that was broken. Knew it didn't run, got it sent straight to you guys back in your other shop in Bayswater. And Hayden rang me and he goes, yeah, the motor is, what was it? I think it was like 0.6 of a mil out of square. And he goes, you won't be able to polish with it. You'll do surface prep. And I'm not doing surface prep anymore. I'm doing polishing.
Yep.
Put another motor on it. And I would ring him back and I'm like, put one of those the big motors that you put on those Pro Grind 820s.
Put a big block on it.
Put a big block on it. And he's like, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. This is back in 2018. We don't do that. I'm like, come on, just figure it out. And calls me back and he's like, no, we'll make it work.
Yeah, you were first 680 with a big block, right?
Yeah. That was at the first, 680 big block on the old school King's Concept chassis from 2003. And yes, then I was still employed at that stage, but my boss, he would sling me jobs that he didn't want to do. So leveling and just general grinding for just cashies and stuff.
Gotcha.
And I kind of got more familiar with how to use the big block and get the floors flatter.
Yep.
And then 2020, on the week of lockdown, the week that lockdown got announced is when I went full solo, doing my first solo polishing in a house with the big block. And it's all been fun and games since then.
It's pretty safe and comfy working for someone else. And it seems like you had plenty of time available doing those edges.
Yeah.
What made you want to go out and start your own thing?
I was I was seeing inefficiencies, I guess. I was seeing how people were doing floors, was specifically who I was working with. And I was like, I reckon I can do that quicker, like with the big block especially.
Yeah.
Using tooling in a different way, doing tooling combinations different ways. My employer, he was very good at polishing, very good floors. He was OCD, and I'm also in a way OCD. And
I don't believe you.
and but I always diverged in that his was sticking to a process that he had.
Yep.
That was works. It works for him, but I was more reaching the metrics and reaching the standard is what my benchmark is.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can get there quicker, then that's great.
Yep.
So we'd be on floors that were meant to be full exposure, and he'd do first pass, second pass, and then, two passes of first pass.
Okay, gotcha.
And then a third pass,
twice 30s.
Fourth pass on third 30s.
Oh.
And I was just like, I feel like you can get this done quicker.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, you really got to get the floor flat. And then 60 grit, 50, 60s, doing his pass, then doing a B pass, grout in with a B pass, 50 transition with a B pass, and like everything kind of had a B pass. And I was just like, this, works are vouching this one pass system, and they've got all these new tools coming out. That's when you were bringing out the rocks,
gotcha,
and stuff. Because
Yeah.
that was still in the coffins era.
Yeah, the impact.
And you're really getting full advantage of the machine. He was also a lot of little things like over temping the machine a lot more often than I think was appropriate.
Yeah, okay.
So pushing it in the wrong way. But yeah, and wanting to have a bit more freedom and be able to knowing how much money there is to be made, and knowing the process and everything, and having the machinery, and not kind of being satisfied with
And
just
then
doing
on
edges.
top of that, the edges were looking so much better than the rest of the floor, right?
Yeah, and wanting to change things up, using different dust extraction and updating systems.
Mm-hmm.
Wanting to keep up to date with things, seeing new tooling coming out and being like, oh, I want to try that. And it's like, I don't know about that. Like, well, I'm not going to buy all these grinders and stuff, and you can do your thing. So just went out and did that. And then not long after going solo, within a matter of months, I got word of a large job. It was too large for me. And I contacted Kurt from Rock Up Group.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, there's this job here at this venue that they're looking to get the floors redone. But I got word of it through an epoxy guy. Then he was going to epoxy it.
Ooh.
And I was like, no, this should be polished. This is a high-end venue. It shouldn't be epoxied. And he's like, oh, no, polished concrete doesn't last. You got to use this 4K bloody epoxy stuff or whatever. It's bulletproof. I was like, no, you're just an epoxy kind of, dude. He was asking me originally he asked me if I would surface prep it for him. And I was like, I could. And he's like, oh, do you reckon I could surface prep? It was like, I think it was around over 1,000 square meters. And he was asking if he could surface prep it with like a Canterbury polyvac with those 4-inch cup wheel discs mounted underneath it.
Yep.
So just a passive grinding system on a single phase.
Yeah, that should do it.
He was asking if he could surface prep with that. And I was just like, this is like way beyond you. It's beyond me to do this solo. So I rang up Kurt and I was like, yeah, this job, it should be polished. Like it'd be a shame to let it get epoxied. And he's like, yeah. He knew someone to do with that building and gave them a call. He ended up doing a sample and winning that. And then I rang him and I'm like, hey, because now we're in peak lockdown.
Yeah.
I said, if there's any room in there for anyone else, shotgun first.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, I've got my, my workers and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. But if anyone else is getting in on that, I want to be first.
Yep.
And so he's like, yeah, that's fair. So went in with that. And then he gave me all the awkward, shitty bits. And when he saw me grinding through the concrete and going through the aluminium trims, like in between construction joints, and just going through them and not buckling, like keeping my everything plumb and square, and grinding it right. And he's like, "Oh, what disc are you using there? What grind are you using there?" And I'm like, "Just this one." He's like, "Oh, yeah, that one works for that, doesn't it?" I'm like, yeah. And yeah, that was kind of, we ended up doing that whole venue. And we did another one for that same construction company. Yeah. And then, we just started, I got in with Kurt, and he showed me how to increase productivity to the next level. Yeah. Like, it was just crazy. That's his thing. It was like within the first kind of couple of jobs of working with him, once I actually was on a machine again, because I went back onto edges when I was doing that. But then when it got to the point where I had my own machine there, by this stage I'd purchased a RC chassis. So I'd switched out the old push chassis, and I was on the RC. And I can remember we were on a job up Rural Way in Bendigo, and it was just Kurt and I. And he had the 820 RC and I had the 680. And I had what I thought I had it dialed in, but I wasn't. I was looking down and I'm like, this isn't really cutting. And I just walked over and looked behind his machine, and I was like, how did you get that, like, such good exposure? Like, this is like really hard. And I looked at these dials, and I was just on, I thought, appropriate numbers, but he's like, no, you got to change this to that and do this and that. And I was like, that makes complete sense. And like, I easily went up 30% in productivity within like the first kind of one-on-one kind of consulting training, essentially. I don't like calling it training because I wasn't paying him for it. I was getting paid for it. I was so lucky. But it was, really training, and that's where I went to the next level with productivity. And I was able to get to my standards, or our standards even quicker. And then that allowed me more time to focus on other things. So more time on the details. Yeah, sure. And really bring them up. And then when when a job would come in through Rockup or something where they needed someone who would pay attention to the details, or there was a lot of edges or a hallway or stairs or benches, or a complete retrofit in a fully finished house with all the skirts on. And they needed someone who would protect everything, the kitchen, the air vents, the fire alarms, the doorways, the door jambs, the window sills. I would get those jobs and kind of get to prove myself there. Yeah. And that was great. Is that what you enjoy doing? Yeah, I find it oddly soothing. It's when I go into a job, if it's like a retrofit and everything's in there, going in there, doing the site inspection and measuring up how much color bond I might have to get cut, so I can shimmy it in between recessed doors. Yes. And putting that in between the doors, and then plasticking up everything, putting up 900 meters of masking tape, and spending. I've started getting some friends of mine in to help me with my protection, just to get it done quicker. Yeah. Okay. But accumulating, it could be 20 to 28 hours of wrapping a house to get it like Dexter kill room ready, so I can go in there with the hose and the Densey and the grout, and not worry about it splashing up. Not compromising your process, no. And also not compromising the finishes in the house. So, and then when it comes to the peeling off the protection, and you're peeling it and it's 95% good underneath, like that's good enough. Like, it's pretty good. Yeah, you can never, when you've got a diamond embedded tool spinning 6,000 RPM, there's only so much you can do when you're against 0 millimeters.
Absolutely, yeah.
So touching up the skirting boards here and there is better than taking off the skirting boards and indefinitely damaging the plaster in the process and having to replaster, repaint,
much more cost effective,
redo all your skirts. So being able to offer that, being able to protect skirting boards and get a floor good, or beyond good, I think.
Yeah.
Rejuvenate it and bring it back is
that's very impressive. Great. That's very impressive. So when it comes to when it comes to precision and standards for your brand and for you personally, I mean, that's obviously, protection is often overlooked. And people from as far as customers, I guess, only really appreciate good protection after they've had a bad experience.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one aspect of the job, and you haven't even started yet.
Yeah. It's usually going on the weekend, and I'll have could be 4 or 5 of us in there protecting the house so that on Monday I can start. And getting it done right, because you have to do it right the first time. Once you spray down your water, you can't stick on top of wet plastic. And unless you wait till maybe the next day, first thing in the morning, you can come in and touch up bits here and there. But you don't want to, if your plastic starts falling off because the fan on the motor has sucked it off because you didn't tape it up high enough. I mean, with enough tape, it can go south very quickly. I remember I have a particular process and order of operations with specific brands of tapes to get it waterproof from the ground to 1.8 is generally how high I'll go. But I remember doing other houses when I was employed before I had this kind of order of operations of laminating the tapes, where we would spend maybe 3 to 4 hours wrapping and only going 300 high, and then taking that off, just being like, yep, you're going to have to paint. The boss was just like, you're just going to have to paint. There's no other way of doing it. But sitting there, pulling off the masking tape, getting about 10 centimeters, and then it would tear, and then going 10 centimeters, and then it tears and tears. Painful. And I don't have any fingernails. So you're sitting there with a razor blade, and before you know it, you've been sitting there for 5 hours trying to unwrap a 50 square meter house. And it's now I can go through and unwrap a full house, and still can take half a day, but that's unwrapping all the cabinetry and everything. So I'll put flooring protection over stone bench tops or any bench tops, put right angled cardboard over all corners so the hose doesn't tear up the plaster, and all the bench tops in case the grinder bites down, bogs and swings its chassis. Don't damage anything in that way. There's so much torque involved in this, and the discrepancies in concrete strength, it's milliseconds, and the flatness too. I mean, that'll pull the machine around, and everything's already installed. Yeah, and being dependent on how well something has been installed, like a bench top. Yeah, I've seen the bench top when I've been grinding, and I've stood up and leant against it with my hand, and it's budged a bit. I'm just moving it. And I'm like, okay, so let's stay 30 mil off this one, and then just do it by hand, because and that's not installed properly, and I don't want to have to pay to get it installed properly. So didn't have the same level of attention to detail. No, I don't think other trades do, especially plasterers, I seem to think. Yeah. So do you have so when you get away from, okay, we've gone and wrapped, right? Which I think is a big thing for your customers. That is a big cost saving. I mean, if the house is already finished, they probably want to get back in as soon as possible. I'm assuming too. So if you're going in there and you're doing grinding and polishing their floors in an existing home, they've got the cost of being out of the home. And then if you don't go to the levels that you do, they've got the cost of having to
refit skirts, repair plaster, repaint.
Yeah, reinstall door jambs or something. Or
that's a really hefty cost compared to protecting it.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't got a quote from you yet, so I'm just, these are all assumptions. But it seems like a really big point of difference in the marketplace. What else? What is this? Is this where your level of attention to detail finishes, or are there other things that you that you apply this same level of attention to?
Like where it starts, really. Like it's even before it starts.
Oh, so this is actually a recognised sickness.
Yeah. Yeah. Previously medicated for it, but off that now, so it's kind of gotten worse. Worse in a good way.
They're getting better value now.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've seen your work, right? And it's almost evident that you spent as much time on the ground,
More.
within a foot all day long.
They don't even compare how long you spend on the edges compared to the floor.
Yeah.
Like good productivity would be, because on my grinder on the RC, you can set a stopwatch. So I set the stopwatch on every job to let me know how I'm going productivity wise on the surface area, because you can measure the surface area and you can time it very easily. And if I'm getting 10 hours per 100 square meters, then that's good. If it goes up to like 12 to 13, that's like, okay, if I'm getting towards 15 hours per 100 square meters, then something went wrong, or the floor was particularly difficult, wasn't flat, or it's usually, if I'm losing time, it's on 30s or transition. The two like slowest passes. But then an example is a job I recently did was a retrofit of a failed surface polish someone did in an existing house. They only got 2 years out of it before it failed. I went in there, did 30s and 60s and did the edges. To do 30s and 60s, the machine ran for like 45 minutes or something. And to do the edges took me over 4 hours. Yeah. Because there was hallways, so I had to level the hallway, all the corners, that doesn't compare. Yeah. I've literally crawled hundreds of kilometers. So yeah, it's being able to zone out or get in a state of flow, not zoning out. Yeah. Get in a state of flow where you're engaged enough to maintain quality control, but like lucid enough to not go crazy, and keep going like that and maintain the muscle memory of everything plumb, square, flat, and just checking your scratch pattern and color and flatness, and then having the order of operations of flatness, tightness, color, densifier, not letting grout build up in all the corners. Yeah. So cleaning out, like after I've grouted all the edges, going around and cleaning out all the corners with a spatula, because that grout sitting there seals it away from accepting the densifier. Yeah. So the amount of times that, someone might like send me a photo and they're like, how can I get this corner more color into it? And they're showing me all the high quality triangular oscillating pads that they've just burnt through. And it's like, you need to get more densifier into it. You need to like open that bit up and blend that back in. Yeah. It was sealed off. Even though it's flat, it was sealed off.
You'll burn through your even through your 5 inches as well along the edge.
Yeah.
If that's all dirty.
Yeah. So it's running through, like it might take you realistically like 15 minutes to run through and just scrape out that excess grout. But it will get that last millimeter, and in the corners it'll get that little triangle out. And it's the only real way to get color in, short of just throwing money at it. Yep. And more time, and it's just not cost effective. It's just not good.
No, but even just the quality of the finish at the end, and I think you'll agree, if you do every stage as thoroughly as possible, the way that they then roll into the next one is easier and cleaner, but you can see this reflected in the end result.
Definitely.
just how tidy and tight the edges look. It's, if you haven't cut any corners, so to speak, left the grout in all the corners, even along the edge.
Yeah.
If you do everything to the nth degree and everything is surgically clean the whole way through, you can tell the difference at the end. You're not having to use a tool to compensate for what you didn't do in the last step, and now you're using it for something it wasn't intended for. It's never going to get as good a result when you're using the tool that wasn't unintended for that process to do that process.
Exactly. And trying to blend it into the body of the floor as well, and having like your photo frame edges, these lighter edges. It still gets me on surface polishes. Always like give me a little twitch because if the slab wasn't troweled correctly, rolls up or curls up, and there's just that difference in the actual curing of the concrete, the actual color of the concrete, and it's like I can't get that out without grinding it and getting you back to a homogeneous, clean slab.
Yeah,
like this. Unfortunately, like you chose to do an inlay slab between your studs of surface polish, so you're going to have that border the whole way around.
Yeah,
I've wet cut the perimeter.
Yep,
and everything with matching tool in, but just can't get those colors the same.
No,
so it's jobs like that where I would be like sending photos to Kurt and I'm like, what do you reckon? He's like, dude, that's the concrete. It's set in stone.
Yeah, literally.
It's where, and in situations like that, the education to the client becomes so paramount before you even get in there. To be like, okay, this is a surface polish. Like there will be discrepancies. There's no allowance for height variation. I'm polishing what I'm provided. If they didn't engage with me beforehand, before the pour, and you just handed a slab with tape marks in it and damage and stuff, it's like I can feel damage, but there's limitations.
Yeah, the curing lines and inconsistent curing color is probably it's such a frustration for a concrete polisher, and a lot of people just don't. Well, they just overlook it. They don't acknowledge that the processes that they're going to doing are going to have a knock-on effect, not just for your process, but a lifetime effect.
Yeah,
for the client, and
the client that's seen a picture on Pinterest of just like a small
section.
room that's one section, and they're like, "No, we wanted this."
Yeah,
and it's like, well, it's not what you have.
Yeah,
and I can't change it. You can't surface polish everything, and if it hasn't been burnished correctly and it's not tight, mechanically tight, then it just can't be done.
Yeah. Seen a lot.
Yeah.
What is it? Nearly 10-year anniversary for you then?
Yeah. I think it was about 2015 when I started doing like surface prep. So it would be 10 year. So this would be my 6th year solo.
Yep.
Yeah.
What would you say have been some of the biggest challenges for you in that time?
No, I don't know. I like problem solving. I find it engaging.
Yeah.
So when there's an issue, like it's once I find a solution, I'll have that solution then in my van and a backup for that solution.
Yeah.
So that part of it is kind of fun. So the hardest thing would be the things that aren't engaging for me, like that are like monotonous, or like the computer parts of it, like the business parts of it are the things that would be difficult because that's not the fun grinding and polishing part.
So you love the hands-on stuff.
Yeah. As I would rather do 14 hours on a grinder than sit down writing invoices and doing quotes and stuff.
You and me both.
Yeah, it just flies by.
Yeah,
chuck on an audio book and learn a whole bunch of stuff while I'm making money.
Can I ask what you're listening to?
I listen to a lot of different things, anything from, self-improvement, business, communication to Star Wars and other things like that. So
I am your grinder.
do or do not, there is no try. Now, one that I actually reminded me a bit of Tim. This
Yoda?
one, no, your brother.
That's what I mean. It's like what a Star Wars episode
this
reminded you of Tim.
Book. It's called Principles by Ray Dalio.
Okay.
Who's a hedge fund runner. He runs Bridgewater, which is one of the largest hedge funds out. He went from trading stocks with a cardboard desk to being worth something like I think Bridgewater's worth like 180 billion or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that reminds me of Tim.
Crazy. But no, what reminds me of him is he got so successful by implementing like algorithms very early on in the stock market and stuff, and using these algorithms to reinforce his gut feelings on investments and stuff. But one of his other claim to fame was he helped McDonald's bring out the chicken nugget by standardizing the chicken into a single unit.
Gotcha.
Because they couldn't get a provider that would give them chicken at a set price throughout the year because there were too many variables involved with the weather and producing chickens at that larger scale.
Yeah.
So they engaged Ray Dalio and they're like, we need chickens to cost this much so that we can have this many and make these chicken nuggets that we'll be able to sell for peanuts. And so he said he broke it down and his investments were always balanced for safety and security and for consistent growth rather than higher returns and higher volatility. But he broke down the production of a chicken into how much land you would need in different climates and what nutrients and consumables you need for chickens. And he's like, if you have this much land that grows wheat, this much land that grows grain in these types of climates, then you can standardize a chicken to cost this much and produce this product. And when I was thinking that, hearing about that, I'm like, it's just like with like polished concrete and hyperfloor and everything. If you have this much densifier on hand and these correct diamonds with the correct power to rotate them,
it's a formula.
You can standardize a square meter of concrete to produce a product you can sell for this much. It'll only cost you this much and this long, but you can standardize it into a unit that you can sell at scale.
Correct.
And yeah, it was just like, really interesting.
Just missing the McDonald's client.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to tell me that the realization they came to is that the only way we could standardize the chicken nuggets was to use fish.
Fish.
Well, that sounds like an interesting book.
Yeah, that's a good one. Another one that's interesting is Skunk Works by Lockheed Martin's, like little black book kind of streamlined R&D area. Reminds me of the old workshop and in Bayswater. Whenever I went there, I'm just like, oh, it's like the Skunk Works, where they invented the F-117 and the SR-72 Blackbird. Without a lot of, they managed to produce some engineering marvels very quickly without having the red tape and just having access to things and immediate data on implementing things. When they invented the SR-72 Blackbird, it was made out of titanium, and this was during the Cold War. They couldn't get enough titanium. They managed to get the titanium from Russia using a variety of shell companies through like the CIA and stuff, and then use that titanium to make this spy plane to spy on Russia. And SR-72 was so fast and so high in the sky that if anyone shot a missile at it, their procedure was just speed up, and then the missile couldn't keep up. They just created an insane machine.
Yeah, we're working on some stuff like that here.
It's like, oh, the GK, it's the SR72.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't want that out of titanium. It would be too light.
I know. We made it out of titanium just so we could say,
yeah,
it was titanium.
Might be easy to get it into sight then.
You don't want to know where we got it from though, and we're never telling.
No, it wasn't Russia.
No. Well, we better get off the books because we could talk about that all day. Although I'm sure that listening to this type of information influences what you do, the way that you approach. If I was a customer and I said, look, Jake, I've got 3 different quotes here and your price is almost reasonable. The other 2 are definitely reasonable. What is it different about your approach or your philosophy to polishing my concrete that I'm not likely to understand from the others? What sets you apart here?
Probably, I can only speak for my own quality control.
Of course.
So I can say that if I'm not happy with a floor, then I won't hand it over.
Ouch.
So it's if I have to redo an area, it'll keep me up at night, knowing something's wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
How I mentioned before with the problem solving, having solutions to everything that's gone wrong over the past years, I've kept that solution in my van. Mm-hmm. My van is just a treasure trove of solved problems.
Yes.
And so I'm far less likely to get bogged down with something. A tool breaks, I've got a backup. Mm-hmm. That one breaks, I have another backup. Leads break, I've got a extra plugs. Mm-hmm. All types of fittings for everything. It just would be the quality control, I think, is really where I pride myself in, and only producing what I'm happy with.
Sure. And can you give me any examples of you say it has to measure up to your quality, or you won't sleep at night. What's your quality? Is it, I could make the same statement, but I might have very low standards, like really low standards.
Well, it can be sometimes what the client says, mm-hmm. what they want can be different. Like they can say, I want like a low gloss or I want a mid gloss, but you actually want a floor that's going to last longer and be tighter. Yeah. And if I do this extra step where I'm to put some lithium in there instead and maybe bring your gloss up, mm-hmm. you're going to have a floor that's going to be a lot more practical for what you're doing, for what you want it to do.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing a floor and I'm at transition and it's plucking more than I want or something, mm-hmm. and I'm like, can try, touch wood, micro grout in with a bit of grout in there or something, chuck on some Aqua Zeros or something. But if I'm not happy with it and it needs to be regrout or something, like I will regrout it.
Yeah.
And yes, it's the pattern recognition that kind of comes with that being in your face, this far away from the concrete, being able to see discrepancies in things and casting my eye down the hallway or going over a slab before I've even started with a straight edge to find high spots and identify them, and then drawing out maps, spray painting on the ground, a plan of action, the grinder. As much as I am all for mowing in parallel runs, if there's a massive lump in the floor, that's got to get taken out first because you've got your massive bifolds there that are going to have a bow in their reflection if I don't get that out.
Yeah. You'll see you'll see it in all of the in all of the verticals.
Yeah.
Of the construction?
I did a cafe down in Mornington, Studio & Co.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a 150 square meter, just rectangle. They had limited water, we're on tank water, and they were running out of tank water. So they asked me to be sparing with water use and having to grout a thirsty slab.
Oh boy.
Like a 20 MPa slab.
Yeah.
With limited water was not easy. Grouted it, looked okay, started transition, was doing transition, wasn't happy. And I called the owner, Lisa Warrington, in, and I brought her over and I was like, is there a time limit on this? And she's like, no, have as long as you want. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go back like a stage and regrout this. It's just, it's not going to be good enough for what we want. I want my mum and my grandma and want to take dates here and come in and have this lovely venue here to outlive me. And it needs to be regrout. So ended up going home, filling up. I think it was about like 20 drums, empty drums I had with water, and bringing in all my own water. And brought my brother in from us. He was just at my mum's in Mount Martha, the next suburb over. Got him in to help me so he could just keep it hydrated because it was just soaking up all the water. But that job there was particularly interesting in that the concrete from massive decorative window entryway into this 150 square meter cafe, but the fall of the concrete from where the window was to my screed was 2.4 meters. It went down like 15 mil or something. And it didn't just go down smoothly. It went down, then up and down and up. And when I got on it, did my preliminary runs and like picked up on that, then took a straight edge to it and took a laser to it and realized how bad it was and spent an extra half day just leveling that, having to break my rule of doing more than one pass, but needing to level that. Doing, 5 passes here, 7 passes here, doing inverted here, then another pass to just get a gradual slope, because there was no way of bringing that much down all the way, because then they would have a humongous step out to go outside. So it was less of trying to make the floor completely level. Getting it level was out of the question, but it was getting it flat in the sense of a ramp is still flat and can still be polished.
Correct.
But so long as it is a gradual and continuous gradient, when you polish it, the reflections, all those parallel square sets in the windows and stuff, you stand in there and look in and they're all straight. Yeah. But then if you were to take a laser down to the floor, you could see the massive drop in the slab.
Well, they're saving money now, aren't they? The cafe, because they can only put half cups of coffee on those tables.
Yeah, before them spilling over.
Yeah.
But
that's it's a real life challenge that people will walk into that cafe and they're not going to recognise how much work went into getting it like that. And they're going to go, gee, that was good, well-laid concrete.
Yeah. Anything structurally sound and reasonably flat can be polished. It's just what's your budget.
Correct.
And what's the time frame.
Yeah. Are you saying any concrete can be polished?
As long as it's structurally sound and reasonably flat.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Define structurally sound. I mean, you spent some time in this at university studying concrete, so I take it from
the big block without moving. If the slab doesn't move under the machine, then it's good. Like I've had inlay slabs that have cracked, where it's gone from a large, maybe 120 square meter living room, lounge room down a hallway, and that change in height and change in direction, it's cracked in the hallway in several spots. And done the first pass and filled it with a repair compound and then ground it. But then the slabs have still moved just from the weight of the grinder. Yeah. And the client's like, oh, I thought the repair would hold up more. And it's like, I can't stop your concrete from moving. Unfortunately, like that's, this was a inlay slab in a renovation of an old building. Yeah, so they had different slabs that then they poured on top of. So there's movement there, and they're like, oh, no, it couldn't have moved because, it's a sturdy house. And I'm like, well, it has moved because like I couldn't have refined it to such a nice grit and gotten it that shiny, like unless I could run my machine over it. And there's like a fraction of a millimeter between these two things.
Yeah.
So even that still structurally sound, but polish as well.
Yeah.
But if the slab moves beyond those tolerances, then the machine can't process it. Then I can do it by hand, but you're going to be paying a day rate for
and
a
I'm
5-inch grinder.
I'm assuming that slab was non-bonded.
I got brought in. That one actually got handballed by another polisher who started it. And there was a contamination in the slab. There was a white slab, beautiful mix. But there was a tan bark contamination. So over 300 square meters, there was about 180 pieces of tan bark. And he did
in the surface, not just the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
just what was visible. Yeah. So it's like the client's like, oh, can't you just like grind deeper? And it's like, you'll just find more.
Where do they stop?
Well, yeah, where do you stop?
It makes sense though. They all float to the top because it's timber.
Yeah, less dense, I guess. But so he ground that and got it to 50, 60s and was seeing all that. And he's like, I don't know how to repair this white slab. This was last year, around when you brought out the white repair compound. And I was like, well, this is perfect. So I did a bunch of samples of that in some little tiles with a variety of oxides at different ratios, and ended up being, what was it? It was the white repair compound with 0.3% French grey oxide was the best kind of color match for him, and poured in the repairs as like a base. And then there were some that were quite small, so I could just leave them. But then there were some that were still, larger than a tennis ball. And then went in and dremeled them out, got a Dremel. And once they set, ground them flat, scalloped out some random aggregate style shapes. And then mixed up 4 different hues of grey and kind of a caramelly brown to emulate the stone mix they had.
Sure.
And made some fake total repair stones and then ground them back. But that worked out okay because it was such a large area. There were areas that weren't as severely damaged. So I could do my repairs while they're drying. I could still keep working.
Sure.
But it's when you're on the smaller jobs that might only be, 80 square meters or 100 square meters, a small house, when you come across damage or styrofoam contamination. And it's like, well, I have to stop now. I have to fill this and it has to cure. And it needs, 4 to 8 hours to cure. And it's only 10 o'clock. So I'll fill these and, it's going to be another day. Excessive damage variation. It's you can't see all those things when you're doing the retrofits. If there's any type of floor covering down, if there's tiles down, or when you do a site inspection and they've put some protection down, and it's like a site inspection on a surface polish, and the floor's just covered in plastic, and it's like, why am I here?
Yes. What do you mean? Why am I here? Yeah. We've done everything to protect this, Jake. It's nearly going to be ready for you.
Pull up like the middle. And it's like, that's the middle, like what are your edges like? And then they pull up an area and someone's nail gun, the coils of nails have gotten out and it's all stained and rusted.
Yep.
And I had that. Was about 180 square meter garage. I remember calling you on that one on how to get those stains out. Ended up washing the whole floor with Total Care. Super concentrated.
Yep.
And then
soaking it out.
Yeah, that took half a day just to wash it, but then did the wet cut and got a lot of that rust out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, being able to see what you're working with is pretty important.
This is again something that your clients are buying into. I mean, your experience, your understanding of how foundations work. Also, you're pretty well known for your repairs. I can say one of your repair videos is one of the most has the highest amount of views out of anything I've reshared. The repair that you did on that, I think it was a terrazzo step. Was it terrazzo? Or was it actually concrete?
That was it was meant to emulate terrazzo, that mix. Gotcha. They had existing terrazzo in the house that they were trying to match, and they did an overlay with, it was almost like a pinkish mix, and the nose of the slab snapped off, and that Brandon was there for that one. He helped film me, but my video of that got to like 180,000 views or something.
That's
that one was good.
That's only one repair, and I think that's one thing that you don't see, that you can't compare when you're looking at quotes side by side, is that, I think I've got a good substrate here because it's brand new and then builders just installed it, and I want it polished. And, I'm just looking at 3 different quotes and I've got no idea how to decide who to go with. But, as far as if there's going to be anything in here that needs addressing, I don't know what that's going to be.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be here in this house, if my expectation is to be in this house for 3 years, well, that might be different compared to this is my forever home.
Yeah.
And I could imagine if you were living in that house and you were seeing a blemish or a repair that was never done right.
And, the corners right near all your big recessed bifold doors, and it's really not settling and keeping the standards like right to the wall.
Yeah.
And flatness and tightness, just a homogeneous surface tension over that floor to keep everything consistent. Just like breathe easy, like calm.
Yep.
And it's I love it.
So who is then your ideal customer? What do they look like?
There's someone that wants polished concrete for its intrinsic values and doesn't mind what it looks like, in the sense of they don't want it to be a specific full exposure or a decorative mix or anything. They're like, we just want to have polished concrete that's practical and looks good. And so then they get what I call the chef special, which is just let me go on the floor and do it as efficiently as I can and give you a good product. Let me read the floor. Like if it's not particularly flat, then I'll put 30s on it. But if it's looking like it's pretty flat, then you can have more of a random exposure. I can build it up with a lot of densifier and leave it at a lower gloss. Or I can just do a line here of low gloss, mid gloss, high gloss, and then you can just pick which one. But the people that acknowledge the discrepancies in concrete and see them as features and not faults, and that every slab is different, they're the most ideal. And the least ideal are the ones that blame me for footprints in the slab.
In the slab, yeah.
And asking me to put some stone over there.
I guess where you started this whole journey and your interest in the concrete in itself and the sustainability, I guess it kind of we can see that in the way that you approach the concrete and the polishing itself, particularly when we're talking about your attention to detail as well, because everything that you're doing is effectively contributing to a longer lasting, more sustainable surface that'll see out the future. Even a quality repair done for tomorrow and 100 years from now is going to be better than a repair that was done for today to get out of the job to get the check, basically.
Yeah.
So I guess I think that kind of reflects with your preferred customer is that they're also looking at it from I understand it's concrete.
Yeah.
It's going to have its flaws and all that sort of stuff, but what we want is something that's going to just outlast us.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
intergenerational.
Which is
equity kind of thing.
Which is something that I really appreciate as well. I mean, you would work in a lot of structures and houses around your area where you know that house has been built so well that it is going to last.
Yeah. Versus
these cookie cutter homes that go up to fulfill a need that is only to put a roof over someone's head for maybe 30 to 50 years. Or for in many cases, until the builder's warranty is up,
Exactly.
And I don't love that type of philosophy for building. But hey, we have a product for that too. There's a contractor for that too. But yeah, certainly I have a strong appreciation for the whole, we're building for the long term.
Yeah.
Hence, when we're looking at polished concrete and the way that you're looking at what you do, I can really respect the value that you bring to that material that's going to be there for the test, to stand the test of time. So if that's what you're building, give Jake a call.
Yeah.
Because it's going to outlast him.
Exactly.
What kind of reputation do you want to build in the industry?
Efficient OCD quality.
Is there such thing as efficient OCD?
Yeah, depends what your metric is.
Uh-huh.
So if your metrics get into the standard, like as long as you get there and you're not slow.
Yeah,
I'm far from slow. I'm not the quickest, and I'll never be the quickest. But I'm not slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, reputation, just quality, consistency, premium, like being up in the top, being able to polish things that other people won't touch because it's too tight an area, as long as the grinder can fit in there. And yeah, just when I first went solo, it was most of my work was rectifying defective jobs.
Yeah.
So jobs that someone else had polished or tried to polish, and they weren't happy, and I was coming in and just starting again. I'm telling them I'm not going to just come in and try and repolish this floor. I've got to take it all the way back. It's simply not good enough, and bring it up to standard.
Yeah.
And yeah, make something that will last.
Yeah.
That's really what keeps me excited and keeps me going.
I can see that. Where to from here?
Midterm is keep going how I'm going, but long term, who knows as far as automation goes and what happens there. And I'm excited to see what the GK platform will do. And I can only imagine what the R&D team thinking of what that thing bells and whistles can get put onto that. And I've got ideas in my head of what I imagine it can do with giving your own operating system and everything on it and having the total control there. And for all I know, in 5 years' time, there might be a LiDAR operated grinder that can do the whole body of the floor while I can just do the edges. And who knows?
You don't want to do it the other way around?
LiDAR edges. I'd have to wait until we get AI enough then, because you need some type of general intelligence to do that flat enough, because there's too many definable variables that can happen, little divots and stuff, like screws loose. And
what did you say was the ratio before on edges versus main floor, say residential?
It's ridiculous.
Isn't that the area to improve efficiency?
If you can get something doing it, yeah, for sure. But are you going to make an automated GK edger?
Jake, it's been great having you.
We can talk about it after if you want. So until we can get the Tesla robots on their edges, doing that, we'll train a fleet of them up. That'd be good. But until then, yeah.
So more technology, more efficiency.
Yeah. Efficiency, technology, automation. I think that's the future that I would like to be a part of.
Jake's working from home today on your home.
Yeah. Work from home.
Yeah. Exactly.
Work at home, your home.
That's been a real insight to premium. And I just wanted to say thank you for coming in and sharing all of that with us about your business. But I had some other questions. More about getting to know you, Jake.
Yeah.
And they're not in the sheet that you brought in. I got some quick questions about Jake. And I think I already found out the answer to this question when you came in earlier. What's your favourite coffee order?
Favorite coffee? Well, I'm off coffee now. I haven't had a coffee, I don't know, like 10 months at least.
Wow.
But it used to be oat latte, because I've been lactose intolerant for years and years. So oat milk, but no, I haven't. I'm off caffeine, off a lot of things now.
Right. For health or reducing your budget?
No, it's more expensive eating like this.
Yes.
Got a bunch of dietary restrictions from malabsorption of nutrients and stuff. So very limited diet.
Yep.
And it's a big part of getting through everything now, having to completely change the way I eat, how much I eat, how often I eat. Got very sick last year from it. I lost about 12 kilos unintentionally, which made moving the big block a lot harder. Had to bring in a weighted vest. Had to start wearing a weighted vest just to get big block through doorways. So, but yeah, managing that. That's all just logging everything I eat, time, nutrients, macronutrients, and FODMAPs, and all types of things. It's the complete opposite of fun, but it's got to be done.
You've become your own experiment.
Yeah,
just like
every day.
Polished concrete. Now wow, that's not easy. Having to move off the mainstream supply, I guess you could call it, where you walk into a cafe or a shop and just
haven't eaten out in 10 months at least. Haven't been able to eat a meal out. Really.
Now, we first started discussing this how long ago? Because rumor has it you sat down for a job interview, job interview for Works Plus.
Yeah, so that would have been 2017.
Yeah,
that year. So when I left the company that was going rural, that was when I worked. No, it was when I was doing epoxy that I first met Kurt when he worked for you.
Yep.
And he still worked for you when I was with the rural company. And then he left Works Plus, and I left my job, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll do that. Went to an interview with you, and I remember then that's around when I figured out I was lactose intolerant.
Yep.
And you asked me about it, and I'm like, yeah, I just take lactase enzymes. And I remember you saying, "Oh, I don't get that." I'm like, "Oh, yeah," but then those lactase enzymes stopped working, and so just completely off lactose. So that's been years.
Yeah, it's all part of another journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a fun one, but again, like I said, you become your own experiment, your own
just trying to run efficiently.
Yeah,
putting in enough calories because due to the dietary restrictions, having so many foods unable to be absorbed, I was under eating. So then I had to sit down and calculate all my calories and did like a little spreadsheet and figured out that I was easily like 30 to 40% under energizing myself every day.
Was that when you were losing a lot of weight too?
Yeah. It was around then.
Yep.
And then I have a pre-existing hip injury from a motorbike collision in 2012. I have avascular necrosis of my left hip.
Yeah.
So essentially my hip is like a hexagon in an octagon socket now. And it has pockets of fluid in there. Geode cysts is what they're called. So when I lost a bunch of weight, moving the machine was so hard before I figured out about a weighted vest because I could not tip it back.
Yeah.
I was standing on it the way I used to. I used to have like this Goldilocks zone of standing on the sissy bar and leaning back and I could just ride it up a driveway without the jockey wheel. And it was just, seamless. And then I was trying to do that and I'm like, why won't this thing come back? Like, has gravity changed? I hadn't realized how much weight I'd lost until I weighed myself. And I was like, fuck, I've got to put some weight back on. So, forcing myself to eat more. And then, the malabsorption adapted to that and I had to, instead of eating large portions, I have to eat a lot of smaller portions now. So I feel like a squirrel. I used to intermittent fast and just breakfast and dinner, but now I have to eat in between. Yeah. Intermittent fasted for 8 years, just twice a day. But now it's, having to eat every three hours or something. Just to,
And this is all part of it too, though, right? I mean, we talk about you're the sole operator in this business. So you're the fuel of the business too. So I can imagine this has been challenging to be able to do all the things that you need to do and to continue to have high output. You need to physically have that energy to begin with. And to be able to deliver on at a high level as well. And the main reason why people don't do all of the details that you're into is because, well, one, either they don't have the attitude or you don't have the energy. So the level that you're operating at actually requires more energy too. So when I asked you about challenges before, that one should have been there. Because I think that's a genuine challenge in business. Oh yeah. When you're trying to be on the top end, play at the top of your field, and you've got to have the energy to play.
Yeah, it's difficult to cognitive functioning when you're in ketosis. When you're used to having glucose readily available for all your brain use.
Absolutely.
And then it starts you deplete through it all and your glycogen goes down and your muscles are just weaker.
Can't replace it fast enough.
So, and then, when I lost all the significant weight, injuring my hip, that got really bad. So I was like limping and dragging my leg at work, but managed to work through it. But looking at lined up to get a hip replacement and everything. But I've managed to get my diet and training a lot better. So that's recovered significantly. So I can hopefully push that back.
Yeah.
Get a GK before then, maybe.
So this whole concrete polishing thing is starting to sound like a sport.
Yeah.
You've got to look at every part of it,
sure.
Including the players. Do you have any hidden talents?
I don't know. I think I know what you. No.
Okay, so you've revealed them all today. Okay.
No. Let me think.
You sound like you might have something you don't want to reveal, but that's okay.
I'm not prepared for that one.
That's all right. Last TV show you binge watched?
Last TV show.
Yeah.
I just watched. I'm rewatching Sopranos. Love that one. That's a classic, hands down, best show ever made.
Really?
Yeah, first show to have an anti-hero. Without that, you wouldn't have any Breaking Bad, Dexter, Mad Men, anything like that. So that's a classic.
All right, far out. I'll have to write that one down.
You haven't watched it?
Nope.
Wow.
I haven't watched Breaking Bad either.
Wow.
Or Dexter. Only Mad Men.
You've seen Mad Men?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure one of the guys from Mad Men worked on Sopranos. One of the directors.
You must be watching that while you're doing the edges. Well, thank you so much, Jake, for joining us. It's been really interesting to hear about your journey. Intriguing to hear about your approach to polished concrete and your genuine interest and love for the material and the industry. Really have appreciated that. And of course, getting to learn more about you personally, something that we don't really get a lot of time to do in this game is to be able to sit down and actually just shoot the breeze. It's been really enjoyable to watch you go from where you started in the industry to where I would say, not where you are now, I would say to where you've taken it, because I think that's probably a more appropriate way of summing up what you've been doing. You've really been pushing the boundaries, and we really look forward to watching where you take it to when this is fully automated.
Running a fleet of AIs.
That's right. And of course, if anyone is listening to the podcast and resonates with where you're at and they want premium finishes for their floors, all of the details are in the links. You know where to find Jake.
Yeah.
And we'll wish you all the very best for the future.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This show is proudly supported by Works Plus. Works Plus brings total solutions to all concrete grinding and polishing contractors to make it totally work for their daily operations. We hope you've enjoyed this show. Make sure to tune in each week where we're going to dive deep into all things related to concrete grinding and polishing. We're here to help you so that you can boost your outcomes on the floor.